Caroline Williams stood by the tall window in her office. High above the busy streets of Manhattan, the city sparkled below, but her mind was focused on the final touches of a presentation. Her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard. She looked calm and confident, with her neat haircut and glasses that gave her a smart, polished look. Caroline was known as one of the best marketing directors at a top advertising agency in New York. "Caroline, this proposal is amazing. The client is going to be thrilled," her boss James said with a smile, gently patting her shoulder. Caroline gave a quiet nod. At work, she was respected and admired. She was known for her sharp ideas and strong work ethic, but when it came to her personal life, especially anything about her family, her smile would fade. There was always a shadow behind her eyes. 5 years earlier, Caroline had gone through a painful divorce. Her husband, Nathan Foster, was a well-known doctor. The reason everyone talked about? Caroline couldn't have children. Her family never let her forget that. It became the thing that defined her in their eyes. "Caroline, you should have tried harder," her mother, Eleanor, would say at every gathering. "You were married to a doctor. For heaven's sake, why didn't you get the right treatment? It's such a shame you couldn't give us a grandchild." Her father, Henry, wasn't any better. He was a proud architect who cared more about the family's reputation than their happiness. He didn't want anyone knowing that their daughter was broken. Her younger sister Vanessa, on the other hand, was their golden child, a nurse working at the same hospital as Nathan. She was beautiful, confident, and always praised by their parents. "Look how lucky Vanessa is," Eleanor would brag. "She brings home such fine men. She'll give us beautiful grandchildren one day." Caroline would sit quietly during these conversations, forcing a smile while her heart ached. Even Vanessa, her own sister, would throw cruel jabs. "You're not coming on the next family trip, are you?" Vanessa would ask sweetly. "People get uncomfortable around women who can't have kids. I mean, if it were me, I could have had healthy children." Their words stung like knives. After the divorce, her family started pushing her out. They told relatives that Nathan left her because she couldn't give him a child. They made her sound like a failure, something shameful to be hidden. That night, Caroline sat in her Manhattan apartment with a glass of wine. From her window, she could see Central Park glowing under the city lights. The apartment was beautiful and quiet, but sometimes, she imagined the sound of children laughing in the halls. A deep sadness would settle in her chest. "You are not broken," she could almost hear her grandmother Rose whisper. Rose had been the only one in the family who truly loved and understood her. Before passing away, Rose had told her, "Value your family, but value yourself too." Those words kept Caroline going. Suddenly, her phone rang. She looked at the screen. "Mom." She hesitated, then answered. "Caroline, we have wonderful news." Eleanor's voice was bright. "Vanessa is engaged. Isn't that just perfect?" Caroline held back her feelings. "Congratulations, I'm happy for her. The wedding's next month." Eleanor continued. "You'll come, of course, just don't attract attention, okay? It's Vanessa's big day." Caroline quietly replied, "I understand." She ended the call and stood by the window, her mind heavy. Still, to honor her grandmother's words, she decided she would attend. The wedding took place at the Grand Riverside Hotel. The hall was decorated with white roses and sparkling chandeliers. About 150 guests had gathered, dressed in elegant clothes. Caroline sat at the very edge of the family section. She wore a simple pale gray dress. She didn't want to draw attention, but her quiet elegance still caught some eyes. "Are you okay? You look a bit pale," her Aunt Martha asked, but her voice was more nosy than caring. "I'm fine, it's a lovely ceremony," Caroline answered with a polite smile. But inside, she was struggling. There, at the center of the celebration, stood Vanessa in a glowing white dress, and beside her, Nathan, the man who had once been her husband. Watching them vow to love each other forever was like swallowing glass. The ceremony went smoothly. They exchanged rings and kissed. Everyone cheered. During the reception, guests laughed, ate, and toasted, but Caroline felt like she was behind glass, present but unseen. "Caroline, can't you smile a little?" her father said in a low voice. "People will think you're bitter." She said nothing and took a sip of champagne. Soon, the host announced speeches. First, her parents stood and praised Vanessa and Nathan. "Vanessa has always been our pride," Eleanor said proudly. "Nathan, we are so lucky to welcome you." Then came speeches from friends. The hall was filled with laughter and clapping. Suddenly, Vanessa walked to the microphone. The room quieted. "Thank you all for being here," she began sweetly. "Since this is such a special day, I want to share something from the heart." Caroline froze. Vanessa glanced at her, then turned to the crowd. "Nathan actually divorced my sister to be with me," she said with a proud smile. "He wanted a real family, and with me, he found it." Gasps rippled through the room. Caroline's face went pale. She could barely breathe. People began whispering. One relative called out, "Good for you, Nathan." Eleanor smiled and took Vanessa's hand. "This was meant to be," she said proudly. Caroline sat frozen, her glass shaking in her hand. Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry. Then, the host's voice boomed again. "Now, a few words from the bride's sister." All eyes turned to Caroline. Vanessa's face turned white. "No," she whispered, "my sister has nothing to say." But it was too late. Guests were already looking at Caroline with curiosity. Caroline stood slowly. Her legs trembled, but she walked with grace to the stage. Vanessa's smile dropped. Nathan looked tense. Her parents looked terrified. Caroline took the microphone. The room fell silent. "Congratulations, Vanessa and Nathan," she said gently. "It's an honor to witness this happy day." Everyone relaxed a bit, even Vanessa and Nathan. She continued, "My sister and I shared many moments growing up. Today, she starts a new journey." Then she paused. Her tone changed. "But I think today should also be a day of truth." The room stiffened. Caroline pulled a black folder from her clutch. Vanessa's face drained of color. Nathan gripped his chair. Her parents panicked. As Caroline opened the folder, ready to reveal what she had discovered, the lights in the hall suddenly flickered and the room went dark. The doctor said Caroline could not get pregnant naturally. She felt her heart sink. Her hand shook as she held the report, reading it again and again. "Is this really true?" Margaret nodded. "Yes, I handled these records myself. And there's something else." Vanessa worked in the department that managed Nathan's medical files. She knew the truth from the beginning. Caroline couldn't speak. After a long pause, she finally whispered, "Why? Why didn't Nathan tell me? Why did he blame me?" "His pride," Margaret said softly, "especially since he's a doctor. He even tried to change the records to hide the truth. Look at this." She handed over another paper, a copy of an email Nathan sent to the hospital's IT staff. He had asked them to block access to his file and change some information. "I knew something was strange," Margaret continued. "When I looked deeper, I found he was hiding his infertility. And there's more, your parents have known for 2 years." "What?" Caroline's voice rose, shocked. "Vanessa told them. She asked them not to tell my sister, and they agreed. I overheard them by accident." Caroline stared out the window. She felt like her whole world was crashing down. Everyone had betrayed her. "Why are you telling me this now?" she asked quietly. "Before I leave the hospital, I want to do what's right," Margaret said with a serious look. "I've seen you treated like you were broken, pushed away by your family. That wasn't fair. You deserve to know the truth." They sat silently as the cafe buzzed around them. Caroline thought back to every moment, Nathan's cruel words, Vanessa's fake kindness, her parents' coldness. It all made sense now. Margaret pushed the envelope toward her. "This is all the proof. What you do with it is your choice, but you deserve the truth." Caroline took the envelope and placed it in her bag. "Thank you, Margaret. It took courage to tell me this." Later, Caroline sat on a bench in the park, filled with pain and anger, but also a strange sense of freedom. Those who had called her defective and blamed her all knew the truth. That night, she called her best friend Laura and told her everything. "This is unbelievable," Laura said, her voice shaking with anger. "Are you still going to the wedding?" "I don't know," Caroline said honestly, "but I won't stay quiet." "What are you going to do?" "Tell the truth," she said, her voice steady. "Everyone needs to know." "They'll say you ruined the family," Laura warned. Caroline looked out the window at the dark sky. "They ruined my life first. I blamed myself for 5 years. That ends now." In the days that followed, Caroline confirmed the diagnosis with other doctors. Everything was real. She also spoke with a lawyer about sharing the records publicly. The day before the wedding, Caroline made up her mind. She would sit quietly during the ceremony. take all the fake smiles and whispers, and then speak her truth when the moment came. She opened her laptop and began writing her speech. The first line was, "Truth can hurt, but it sets us free." The next day, at the wedding, a short blackout hit just before her speech. Then the lights came back, as if giving her a signal. She stood on stage, holding the mic. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of strength. "Sorry for the delay," the host said with a smile. "Miss Caroline, please continue." Caroline took a breath and looked at Vanessa and Nathan. They were pale and restless. Her parents looked nervous. Her mother prayed silently. Her father watched her closely. "I was sharing some memories about my sister and ex-husband," Caroline said softly. "We had good times, holidays, birthdays, graduations." The crowd smiled, but then Caroline's tone changed. "But since Vanessa said this day is about truth, I want to tell the real reason Nathan and I divorced." The room went silent. Vanessa tried to stand, but Nathan pulled her down. Their parents were tense. Caroline took out the diagnosis and gave it to the hotel staff. It was shown on the big screen behind her. "This is Nathan's infertility report," she said. "It's from before we got married." Gasps filled the room. A few doctors in the crowd leaned forward to read the details. "Nathan knew he couldn't have children, but he kept blaming me," Caroline said. "He called me defective in front of family. He humiliated me." Nathan jumped up. "She's lying." Caroline calmly showed a second report. "Here's another diagnosis from last month. It confirms the same thing, and there's more." She looked directly at Vanessa and her parents. "They also knew, for 2 years, but they let me take the blame. They let me suffer." The crowd murmured louder. Relatives stared at Caroline, then at her parents and Vanessa. Nathan tried to rush the stage, but some guests stopped him. "You're crazy," he shouted. "I'm just telling the truth," Caroline replied. "Vanessa, you saw the records. You were a nurse, yet you still treated me like I was broken. You had an affair with Nathan and acted like I was the problem." Vanessa started to cry, covering her face. Caroline showed one last document, the email where Nathan asked for his records to be changed. The room shifted from shock to belief. Doctors whispered, "It's real." Everyone could see the truth. Vanessa's bridesmaids stepped away from her. One asked, "Did you know?" Vanessa didn't answer. Caroline's mother stood and shouted, "What do you gain from this shame?" "It's not shame, it's the truth," Caroline said. "I was blamed for 5 years. That's over." Her father pulled her mother back into her seat and started crying quietly. Caroline looked around one last time. "I came today to say goodbye to my family," she said gently. "Now I know the truth. There's no room for lies in my life. Nathan, Vanessa, go live your lives. And to my parents, goodbye." She put down the mic and left the stage. The room was silent, with only her footsteps echoing as she walked to the exit. Outside, the sun was setting. Caroline took a deep breath. She felt free for the first time. Before getting into her car, she looked up at the sky. "You are not defective," she remembered her grandmother saying. Caroline smiled and drove away. 1 year later, in Brooklyn, New York, Caroline was unpacking bags in front of her new home. The trees were full of golden leaves. "Emma, could you help me?" she called. A cheerful 10-year-old girl ran out to help. Emma had curly brown hair and bright eyes. Caroline was in the final stages of adopting her. "Can I take this to my room?" "Yes, after you finish your homework," Caroline said with a smile. She carried the rest of the bags inside. Her life had completely changed. With therapy, she had faced her past and begun to heal. On the wall was a poster for New Beginnings, a support group Caroline started for women dealing with infertility. Twice a month, she welcomed women into her home. The group's motto read, "My worth is not measured by having children." In the kitchen, she saw a newspaper article. Nathan had lost his medical license and was now a sales rep in Arizona. Vanessa had quit her job and was rumored to have joined a religious group. Her parents had sent many messages, first angry, then apologetic. Caroline didn't answer, but she kept a letter from her father that ended with, "I hope you'll forgive us someday." Maybe one day she would, but not yet. "Laura's here," Emma shouted. Caroline smiled. Laura had supported her through everything, from the wedding fallout to adopting Emma. They were going for a picnic that Sunday. The sky outside was clear and blue. Caroline took a deep breath. Truth may hurt, but it set me free. She said those words each morning. Now they weren't just words, they were her life. The doorbell rang. Caroline opened it to see Laura smiling. Ready? It's a beautiful day. Caroline smiled back. It really is. She, Laura, and Emma walked out together, three people not tied by blood, but by love and truth. As the autumn breeze swirled, Caroline whispered to her late grandmother in her heart, "I'm okay now, I love myself, I love my family." And with each step forward, she walked into a brighter, honest future.